for today is we've already done the introductions. We are continuing to do them in the chat. We also have a very interesting ecosystems update on interoperability that will be run by Phil. And then we have care and allies teams updates. We have a monitoring and alerting demo, and then a session for Q&A. And I'll invite Phil to take us through the ecosystems update.
Thanks, Maria Chana. Yeah, so I'll be giving the updates for ecosystems for the past couple of months that we've been working on. We've been working on adding an interoperability function to the CHT. So just give a background on the work we've been doing. So interoperability just refers to the ability of the systems to exchange data. It could be disparate, could be similar, but they're able just to communicate in a meaningful way. That would mean that the data they receive from any other system, the system is able to interpret it, and it becomes meaningful to it. So within our space, that's the digital health space, there are a number of systems that support care delivery. This could be at home, could be at work, or could be at a health facility. So these are many points of care that could have systems that just capture patient data. So for these systems, they could be different. That's a disparate, storing the different data, the different data, which becomes a bit siloed. So that would mean that I cannot see data between these. I cannot see the data between this disparate system. So this has made it difficult for healthcare givers and healthcare providers to access and exchange this patient data because due to lack of this interop layer. So the care becomes a bit fragmented, which means you could have an error, could be a medical error or some inefficiencies in the healthcare delivery. So generally what you're trying just to achieve is to ensure that we are able to, any healthcare provider is able to just access this patient data that could be siloed in any of these disparate systems, just to look at the outcome of having improved care delivery for the patients. So as a proof of concept, in early 2022, so a technical working group of members from Medic, ONA, and LG and Dimagi just explored a way of having an interoperability layer within this digital health space. So what we chose was loss to follow up workflow. So this basically means that if a patient is, if you lose a patient during the entire cycle, you're able to follow up and see this on the system. So that would mean that because there are different systems here, are you able to follow up on this patient? So that is what I'll be showcasing today. So here we have loss to follow up diagram. It's a sequence diagram. So you can see there are the different systems. So we have the CHT. We have a mediator. Which will be showing the OpenHIM admin console. We also have a fire resource and a requesting system. So for the requesting system, for us, we'll be using Postman. On the far left, we have the CHW. That's a community health worker who is the who will do the follow up in this workflow. So that's one of the users. We also have the user at the requesting system. So the requesting system could be anything, could be an EMR, could be that's something like OpenMRS or Afya KE from MOH Kenya. But for us, it just need to showcase to just close that loop. So we'll be using Postman, which is an API platform. So the standards used are just FHIR, that's Fast Healthcare Interop Resources. This is just a standard to ensure that digital health systems are able to communicate via these standards. And then we use the OpenHI architecture, which is an open source framework for building interoperable health information systems. So that is basically the architecture we used for this. And the system, as I mentioned, there are this community health toolkits. We have OpenHIM, and also have the requesting system, which is Postman. So this is some work we supported. Beyond the interop work we're doing, just having the proof of concept. So we work with MOH Kenya. So they were trying to integrate their EMR, that's Afya KE, with ICHs, that's their CHT instance, the community health instance. So through this work, we are able to validate the flow, because part of the loss to follow up workflow forms the entire referral flow for the referral flow between the ICHs, that's the CHT instance, and Afya KE. So what that would mean is that if a patient I'm unable to if a patient did not show up, say, to a health facility, or I wasn't able to follow up that, I'm able to see that throughout the entire system, and I can actually follow it up. The community health worker will definitely go back to the patients and just cater to them. So we'll have a demo, just a short demo. There are some links here that we thought would be really helpful for anyone who's interested in this. We have the repository. There's also how to set up your local environment. You also have some test instances, that's for the CHT and the OpenHIM admin console, and then also a demo video. Yeah, so within the interoperability interop repo, there's also README where you're able to just set up locally, or just follow the steps that you're able to do all this what I'll be showing today. So this is just a screenshot of the on the right, the screenshot of the admin console. So I'll just jump right into the demo. Sharing my screen. So so here I have these are my local environment. So this is the CHT instance. So what I'll be doing is just I'll log in as a community health worker. So here you can see this is just the default page that I went to, but my interest is creating a patient. So I'm within this health facility. You can see I'll just create a new patient. So my patient is Nancy. Just call her Nancy. Nancy Doe. Her show name is Nancy. And you can just give a random date of birth. That's 2019 on August 4th. So choose the gender, and then indicate that the role, she's a patient. Then I can submit, can input all this data, but for in the interest of time, I'll just skim through this. I'll just submit that. So once that is submitted, there is some action that goes to the mediator. So this is OpenHIM, so I'll just log in. So you'll notice that we've created the patient here. It is just moments ago. Yeah, so the next step would be just getting the patient ID, and then now for the requesting system. So I'll go back to the my browser here, and I'll copy this the patient ID is generated here on the URL. There it is. Then I'll go to the requesting system, which is Postman for us. Yeah, so I just need to paste this patient ID I've created here, where I'm supposed to insert this. So my Postman is already set up. We can have this as a curl function. It's actually documented on the repo, so you can actually sit and run it on your terminal. So I'll just paste that, and then I'll send it to the mediator. It's a post command, so I'll send it, and it's been created. So I can go back to the admin console. Here it is. You can actually see it. So there's some activity some activity here. So you can see the patient here with the ID that I've just input there. And we also have a subscription resource here where the CHT can actually now pick this up. So go back to the CHT. So here it is. If I go back, if I go to the tasks, ideally should be there, what I've just done. However, I need to sync. And here she is. Here is Nancy. So you can just click, just now to close the loop. What I'll do, I'll just click on this. And then should the patient have a follow-up, I'll click on yes, and then submit. It's just close the loop. You can actually see it on the admin console. So just go back, and you can see now it's now an encounter. And the status now is the status is actually now finished. You can actually see it. You can actually see it there. So just completed the entire loop for what I just showed in terms of the loss to follow up workflow. Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
My name is Michael Cohn. I'm a product manager at Medic, and I'm really excited to share some updates on how we've made it easier for health workers to learn and use the CHT. So if you've joined one of these roundup calls before, you know that we've been updating the user interface of the CHT to more closely align with other Android apps so that it has a really familiar look and feel. So we split this work into a few different stages as shown on this slide. And we actually just finished the floating action button work. I think it just maybe got merged this morning or last night, or it's very close. Anyway, that work is pretty much done. And we're now starting work on the final stage, which will address how navigation works. But with that said, it's been a few months since we've actually demoed our progress and done a live demo to kind of start clicking around and all that. So I wanted to just take a couple of minutes to show you how things look when you kind of put them all together. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Cool. So I am currently logged in as two different users. So on the right, I don't know if that's right or if it's mirrored or not. Anyway, this screen here is Paula, and she's seeing all of the new UI elements. And over here, CHW Henry is seeing the old UI for comparison. So it's important to note that these users are accessing the same instance, but Henry has some permissions that allow him to continue seeing the old UI. And I will talk about that in a minute. But so for the first thing you'll notice on the contacts tab is in 3.17, we updated how search works. So you kind of see the difference between the old and the new. So the actual functionality of it is all the same. You basically type something in there and tap on the return key, and it's going to do the search. You also notice the new big floating action button down here, whereas in the old UI, you have the action bar down here. So I will click into one of these households and do it on this screen too, so you can kind of follow along and see the differences. So in 4.2, one of the things that changed was you'll notice that we have moved all of the actions from this bottom bar, and we no longer have the bottom bar down here. So some of the secondary actions like edit and delete have moved up into this little menu up in the top right. And the sort of things that do additive actions have moved into the floating action button down here. So those are all the main things that you're going to do on the screen are going to be under that button. And if we go click in a little bit deeper here, again, looking at old and new, you'll see again, we're looking at a specific person. You can see the old version still has the bottom bar, and the new version, again, you're going to see the secondary actions up here and the floating action buttons down here. Now I'll actually click on this and kind of, you'll see what it looks like when you actually tap on the floating action button. So in the old UI, you had the same kind of drawer. And in the new UI, you have all the actions coming from the floating action button here. And this gives us a little bit more scalability in the types of things that we can do, and kind of aligns it more with the Android material experience. So, but yeah, and then once you actually tap on one of these reports, it behaves exactly like it did before. So we didn't change any of the actual like functionality, like when you tap on things, it is just changing how you access these to align it more closely with other apps. So I'm going to jump over to the reports tab real quick. Made some big changes in here as well. So in 3.17, along with search on the contacts tab, we updated how search works on the reports tab. So it's basically exactly the same here. Just type in and search for something there. But the bigger changes you'll notice is the filters. So in the old version, you had these kind of a bunch of different drop downs here. And in the new version, you have a drawer that slides out from the right. And you have all the different filters here. And you can have multiple filters applied at the same time. Cool thing here is you can actually see how many filters are applied when you're in this view. So then you can reset those, go back here. And again, you have the floating action button on the reports tab. And if you click into one of these reports, the secondary actions are in the same menu like we had before. Whereas before, like we saw in the contacts tab. So this is what the old version looks like with the menu bar, the action bar at the bottom. The new version has the little menu option up at the top. Another thing that was updated was how bulk delete works. As I had mentioned, there's a way to see some of the old UI elements in the current version. It does not behave like that for bulk delete. There's no like feature flag for bulk delete, and I'll get to that in a second. But this is kind of how bulk delete works. You'll always have these select boxes here, and you'll have some options to select them individually or do select all. So those are the updates on the reports tab. Task tab, there were no relevant updates from based on search and filter and all that kind of stuff. Messages tab, really the only update. Again, this screen over here is the new version. The old version, you can see, has the action bar, so it's going to be the same. The primary action on the screen is in this button. Same with targets. There were no updates on the targets tab with these updates. So that's what it looks like in mobile. Let me just expand this a little bit. So when we're on desktop, it basically all the same updates apply. So you have search has been updated in the on the different tabs. You're going to still have the more actions are going to show up here. And actually, let me arrange this. I feel like it's really helpful to kind of see the differences in the old and the new. So I'm not going to have enough screen real estate there, but yeah, you can see the action bar in the old, and in the new, you have this bottom flap button here and the fab up here. So again, all the actual actions are going to be pretty much the same. And with the new UI, when you touch on the fab, you're going to have a modal window showing up straight in the middle here. And again, it's just going to take you exactly where it did in the past. So, yeah, those are the key changes that you'll see in this evolution. And like I said, these two users are actually accessing the same instance. One person is seeing the old UI and another person is seeing the new UI. And we expect most projects will go directly to the new UI, and we do have some projects that are already using the updated UI from 3.17 and 4. 4.1, I believe, and we're able to see a bunch of telemetry data in terms of how users are interacting with that, and the results are great so far. But we do also understand that some projects will want to do some additional training on these, and probably using the in-app training cards that are available, that will be available in 4.2. But we also understand that some projects will want to roll these out in cohorts. So rather than going all at once, you can roll out these changes in groups of users. And let me just show you how we achieve that. So using permissions. So there is view old. So there are some permissions that will allow you to have some of these like the old filter and search show up for some users based on that. Oops, I just lost that search. There we go. Yeah, so there's a couple of permissions. If a user has those permissions, for example, they'll see the old action bar, and same thing with filter and search. The old UI will be totally removed in the future, but it will be around for a little while to make sure that projects can easily upgrade to the new UI. And with that, I think I will hand it back to Neeraj, and we'll go back to that one slide.
As we go back, Michael, there's a question for you from Jackie. Jackie, do you mind unmuting and asking?
Okay, sure. Thank you. So I was just wondering, I'm not sure whether you touched on this, but what is the consideration of having the fab at the top or closer to the top as opposed to the usual bottom right spot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, Nicole, I'll let you answer that one.
Cool. Thanks for the question, Jackie. So it's only on desktop that it's on higher on the page. On mobile, you can see it's the bottom right, which is the usual spot for that. For desktop, the higher placement is actually aligned with material design standards and is also more contextual to what you're adding to. It's where the contact is, or like the bulk of the information of the user or detailed page you're seeing. Because it starts to look a little funky if there's nothing on the page yet, and then you have a plus button on the side, also aligned with the flat button. So it just makes it like more contextually relevant to the UI on the screen.
And just to check, does it, as you scroll down, it's still visible there? It doesn't stay with that content at the top of that pane, right?
Yes.
So I had mentioned the training cards as a way to roll out these, to train users in their app remotely. We've talked about those on roundup calls before, but there's a link there. We've also started including some like starter packs for the training cards to make it really easy for app developers to understand how they should be configured in terms of some resources for that. So there's a link there for that. And also a little bit more information about feature flags in terms of how they work and how we expect projects to potentially use those. And from the slide here, the ones with the stars on it are the ones that have a feature flag associated to those. So those are the ones that can temporarily be, users can see the old version of the UI. And like I said, we're starting work on Nav now. And yeah, that's it.
Well, thanks for the demo, Michael. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole, the product designer with Medic, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the user research activities we've been conducting, first on the care team side. So we've been continuously working to speak with CHWs, supervisors, and other caregivers to sample their experiences with the CHT and to help us understand areas of opportunities for improvements. So here is a snapshot of whom the care teams has spoken to date. And most interviews happen with users in Uganda and Kenya, followed by Nepal, as you can see in this chart, and are primarily CHWs. In the first quarter of this year, we spoke to 7 users and heard a few stories about being not easily able to find patients or households folks are looking for, as well as stories about the muting functionality supporting unexpected use cases. So what we do is, after speaking to these users during these interviews, we, on a quarterly basis, will synthesize our findings into insights. So here's an overview of what we've heard on the care team side so far. And you can see on the right side the number of stories associated with those insights we've put together. So we've heard a couple of instances of the UI being difficult to navigate, different configurations that don't necessarily support the needed service delivery. Like I mentioned earlier, muting is used for unintended purposes that could be better supported by existing functionality, and so on and so forth. The details of these insights and our findings can be found on the forum if you're interested in reading more. But for the purposes of today's call, I'll just give the quick overview. Cool. So because I'm already talking, I will also give an overview of what we've heard on the ally side. So this focus working group is talking to app developers, system administrators, and other technical end users to sample their experience interacting with the CHT. And to date, you can see we've spoken to 21 users, primarily in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and mostly app developers so far. Quick overview of what we heard in the last quarter. When we spoke to 4 users, we heard about the difficulties of purging, as well as difficulties of knowing how to find and fix errors during the initial development setup. And again, what we do on a quarterly basis is analyze our findings and the stories we've heard into insights, again, with the number of associated stories with each. And we can see the top items are that it's difficult to test purging rules without deploying them on production. It's difficult to find and make sense of errors when setting up the CHT. And for app developers to understand key concepts in the CHT. So again, these findings will be shared on a quarterly basis on the forum if you're interested in reading more. But also, if you're interested in being involved in these user research activities on either of these focus working groups, for supervisors, CHWs, or if there are any app developers who want to give us their feedback, I'm definitely happy to set up calls and work together with our partners. Also, huge thanks to our partners who have worked with us thus far. Yeah, you can reach out to me at orlowski@medic.org, and let me just type that out here to set that up. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Ashley Jones. I'm a technical product owner based in the US. And on the Allies, we have come up with a solution to help monitor the CHT and alert on key metrics. This has been a while in the coming, and I want to go through a little sort of brief history lesson and then dive into what we've developed. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So this is a developed instance of the CHT, and it's important that everyone know that for every instance of the CHT, there is a URL you can hit to get monitoring statistics. And this is JSON that is automatically updated by the CHT as you use it, so that you can see your database size grow and other key metrics that help you monitor what's going on within the CHT as content is submitted to it via the forums, and as other things get updated, including Sentinel backlog and a whole number of metrics. And this is actually unauthenticated access, such that you don't need a username and password to visit this URL. And that means that The data includes no PII as well as no PHI. That allows you to safely broadcast this information, but allows you to easily consume it. There's not a lot of machinations you need to go through about setting up VPNs or getting credentials. The API has been documented for a while, and the documentation talks about what you should monitor and what kind of changes are relevant to which of the different statistics that are available in the monitoring API. But it's been sort of like a rough plan about how you might implement alerting and monitoring if you had an alerting and monitoring system in place. But what Allies has gone ahead and done is we have taken a best-in-class solution using Grafana and Prometheus, which is a front end that you see here. Grafana and Prometheus is the back end. The front end allows you to render all these different panels, and the back end allows you to automatically ingest at 5-minute intervals all the statistics coming in from your CHT instance. So right now, what you're seeing is fake data from a test tool that Josh wrote. I just want to give props to Josh on all this work. It's been really great to see it come together. And the test tool allows it to make great demos and do good testing. So with the data being ingested every 5 minutes, it gives a nice dashboard that you can easily see what's going on. So right now we're seeing some artificial changes happen that probably are not realistic to a production instance, but it does allow you to, like I said, give a good demo. The dashboard is not actually the primary goal. When we think about self-hosters who have the CHT running, the primary goal is to prevent users from not being able to submit reports, right? To ensure that CHWs can always do their job to deliver care. So the time between something happening and a CHW noticing is a small window that self-hosters need to be able to get an alert. And that is the main goal of these dashboards. You will always be able to look at them. You'll always be able to see what's going on. And there's an additional details panel that has a ton more statistics. Recently, we debugged an issue in production where there was a large Sentinel backlog, and we were able to figure out that there was a configuration error in the app settings that was causing all the Sentinel transitions to fail. But again, back to alerting, that alerting is what will enable self-hosters to know there's an issue, to come to the dashboards, to look at maybe not the last 5 minutes, but maybe the last 3 hours, and to try to figure out where something might have changed across the data, and then to maybe use the tooltips. Each of these panels has a tooltip that talks about what the data is. And back on the main view, the tooltips even have links to, for example, documentation. So by collapsing that time from when there's an alert to the fix, we're hoping that the CHWs never notice that there was ever any errors. Speaking of alerts, we're supporting two methods of alerting. The first one is email alerts via SMTP configuration. So you'll need to have an outbound email system. There are a number of providers. If you don't, like AWS and Mailgun are two of the ones that have been used. And as well, we support Slack alerts. It should be noted that this Prometheus Grafana solution, because it is the best in class based off of our research, we're not only able to leverage those alerts which are built in, the email and Slack alerts, but if there's other alerts that you would like to implement, then any of those that are supported by Grafana, you're welcome to use. Speaking of other features that can be extended on top of this platform will work very well for other monitoring other monitoring endpoints that you'd like to check. So for example, if you did want to check system level resources in terms of CPU, RAM, and disk usage, then the Prometheus Grafana stack works well with that. as well. There's integrations for Couch, there's integrations for Rapid Pro or TextIt. So there's a lot more data that you can bring into this on top of what we're delivering. And we assume that we're going to do a pretty decent job at what the CHT should do, but that each deployment is going to have bespoke alerts that are key for them to ensure there's no downtime for the CHW. For those that would like to know more about this, all of the work has been done in public, and there's good information about how you can go ahead and set this up today. We're actually hoping to release this week, possibly even today. The final work is out for review, and right after we're done, we're going to continue improving it, specifically around the ability to ingest data from Postgres. This will be not only from Couch to PG, but any other relevant data that deployments would need to alert on. So Couch to PG has a great amount of data that it's sending over to RDBMS, to an RDBMS Postgres, that can be critical for a deployment to know about and to be able to alert on. And the app services team has an internal app monitoring project, and they have a ton of research that they've done that has resulted in a prioritized list, starting with the most important issues that are known to cause outages. And we're hoping to be able to monitor as many of those as possible because of all the great research that the app services team has done. So we have 15 minutes left, and I am available for questions. I'll go ahead and stop sharing and open it up if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask.
Everyone, it was just a prompt for other folks, because just like anyone who's deploying system and hosting it, they're going to want to set up their own alerts and monitoring, and probably have come up with their own custom ways of doing it. And so just curious if there's anyone else here who has anything of their own that they'd like to share how they're doing it, and seeing also how they could potentially use this or evolve towards using this. And I think it would be a great opportunity to learn from, other people who've been deploying CHT and other community health information systems and other tools, and seeing how we put that all together.
Thank you, Mark.
I'll answer it by proxy, Mark, since we've done some interviews already with some deployments that run CHT. And we had one deployment that would do some spot checks on the system, and then they would use a reactive process where when the CHW found a problem, they would then kind of walk it back to try to find the issue. And then there was a different deployment that actually had deployed the exact same Prometheus and Grafana stack, but they were only monitoring system level resources. So when there was a spike in CPU usage, which is pretty common for Prometheus and Grafana, you get that type of info for free. But there wasn't any direct CHT monitoring and alerting that was deployed there. For both, it should be easy to add in this layer.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you very much, and have a good day.